The gavel had barely touched the bench when chaos erupted. In the space of a single heartbeat, a calm sentencing hearing turned into a scene of panic. Chairs flew, deputies stumbled, and a desperate man bolted for freedom, right in front of a stunned judge. This wasn't a Hollywood movie. It was a real courtroom, filled with real people, who suddenly found themselves caught in one of the most shocking escape attempts ever witnessed inside the halls of justice. Courtrooms are supposed to represent order, a place where justice is handed down with calm authority. But what happens when a defendant, facing decades behind bars, decides he has nothing left to lose? Today, we take you inside the chilling case of Marcus Hill, a 22-year-old convicted robber whose brazen attempt to flee the courtroom stunned victims, deputies, and even the judge himself. This is the story of one man's desperate gamble for freedom, and how it all came crashing down in a matter of seconds. Marcus Hill grew up in a troubled neighborhood in Ohio. By his teenage years, he was already known to police for petty thefts and gang activity. But things escalated quickly. By 21, Marcus was accused of a string of armed robberies, targeting convenience stores and gas stations. Prosecutors painted him as a dangerous repeat offender, someone who had terrorized his community with reckless violence. During his trial, Marcus was mostly silent. He rarely reacted as witnesses testified against him, or as surveillance footage of his crimes was played for the jury. To many, he looked resigned, broken, even. But what no one realized was that Marcus wasn't just sitting quietly. He was watching, calculating, waiting. For weeks, deputies escorted him in and out of the courthouse, shackled at the wrists and ankles. But Marcus was young, fit, and determined. And in his mind, sentencing day wasn't the end of his story. It was his last chance to rewrite it. Asterisk. On the morning of his sentencing, the courtroom was packed. Family members of his victims sat on one side, waiting to hear how long Marcus would spend behind bars. His mother sat quietly on the other side, her eyes red from crying. The judge entered, a man known for being firm but fair, and the room fell silent. The prosecutor recommended 35 years. The defense asked for mercy, arguing Marcus was still young and could be rehabilitated. Marcus himself said little. He lowered his head, his hands trembling slightly, though no one seemed to notice. As the judge began to deliver his final decision, the air grew heavy. Every eye was on Marcus. Every word from the judge seemed to echo louder than the last. And then it happened. Asterisk. Before anyone could react, Marcus exploded from his chair. The defense table toppled over with a crash as he leapt his feet and bolted toward the courtroom doors. For a moment, the entire room froze. Gasps filled the gallery. The judge stopped mid-sentence, his gavel suspended in the air. Deputies lunged, but Marcus was fast. He vaulted over the wooden barrier, separating the courtroom well from the gallery, knocking over a chair as he sprinted toward the exit. One deputy managed to grab his jumpsuit, but Marcus twisted free, dragging the officer down in the process. Victims' families screamed as he barreled past, the sound of shackles clanging against the floor echoing through the chamber. For nearly 20 chaotic seconds, the courtroom looked less like a place of justice and more like a scene from a chase film, raw, frantic, and terrifying. Asterisk. Marcus made it to the heavy double doors at the back of the courtroom. He shoved hard, the metal chains on his wrists clattering as he pushed with everything he had. The doors cracked open, and sunlight from the hallway spilled into the room. For an instant, it looked like he might actually make it. But just as Marcus lunged through the opening, 3 deputies slammed into him from the side. The impact knocked all 4 men to the ground. Papers flew into the air. Shackles scraped against the tile, and Marcus screamed in frustration as deputies pinned him face down. The judge, still frozen behind his bench, finally slammed his gavel with all his force, shouting for order. But order had already been broken. The courtroom was left in stunned silence. The failed escape seared into the minds of everyone who witnessed it. Asterisk. Marcus was dragged back to his seat, his chest heaving, sweat pouring down his face. His mother sobbed uncontrollably, while victims' families sat in disbelief, shaking their heads at what they had just witnessed. The prosecutor stood with a grim expression, whispering to deputies to ensure tighter security. The judge, visibly shaken, leaned forward and addressed Marcus directly. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with anger. You thought you could outrun justice in this courtroom? You thought wrong. He then handed down the sentence, 35 years behind bars. And he added one more note. Marcus's desperate escape attempt will be entered into the record, making any chance of early release nearly impossible. As deputies escorted him out, Marcus looked back one last time. Not at the judge, not at the victims, but at his mother. His eyes, filled with both rage and regret, lingered on her until the doors slammed shut behind him. Asterisk. Courtrooms are designed to be places of order, a space where the rule of law stands above all else. But in moments like this, we're reminded of the raw human desperation that can shatter that order in an instant. Marcus Hill's escape didn't succeed, but for those 20 chaotic seconds, he managed to turn a solemn courtroom into a scene of panic. For the judge, the memory of that day remains one of the most shocking moments of his career. For the victims' families, it was yet another reminder of the man who had already taken so much from them. And for Marcus, his gamble for freedom only dug his prison cell deeper. Sometimes the most unforgettable courtroom moments aren't the verdicts or the sentences, but the shocking attempts to defy them. This was one of those moments.